Welcome back to the debate and discussion point. Today we are discussing the things that Hitler did in his foreign policy. Let us continue.
Yes. Let's do.
So we know about the Stresa Pact, the Anglo-German naval agreement and the conscription in the RUT situation. We also know about Italy invading Abyssinia. Is there anything else?
Well, when Hitler ordered his 30,000 troops into the Rhineland, there was a rumor at that time that he had sent them secret orders to withdraw if they face the French at any point. He was trying to break yet another rule. However, apart from that, nothing major really happened. Britain were still grinning about signing the Anglo-German naval agreement. France was busy dealing with a corruption scandal and Italy were invading Abyssinia, and Russia were facing Stalin's opponents.
So basically, Hitler was frightened of getting into trouble with the League of Nations, and he was scared of something going on.
That's right.
So why didn't Hitler help fight with Mussolini?
He seemed to have too many problems of his own to deal with. He probably felt that, if he left them, they would either be forgotten, or they would probably get worse. His reputation was slowly declining. Mussolini was doing fine with his troops, who were fighting in Abyssinia. It didn't seem to be a part of Hitler's business really.
It was only when the League of Nations got involved that Mussolini turned to Hitler. Yes.
Correct. You would like me to tell you about that?
Yes, please.
Mussolini turned to Hitler for support because the League of Nations had imposed sanctions on his country. He probably would have preferred the League not to get involved in the first place. It was more of a discussion between Abyssinia and Italy than the whole world.
What was the response of Britain and France?
Britain and France then proposed a secret deal. This was called the Hohenlohe Plan, which was aimed directly at Mussolini. It was a promise for Mussolini to keep 2/3 of Abyssinia if he promised to call a stop to his invasion. This was never stopped. Soon after, the press heard about this, and they were outraged at it. It was immediately stopped. It seemed to the League of Nations that they were supporting the aggressor 100%.
What agreements did Mussolini then sign with Hitler?
After the surrender of Addis Ababa, the capital of Abyssinia in May 1936, both Mussolini and Hitler signed the Rome-Berlin Axis several months later. That ultimately developed into the Anti-Comintern Pact a year later. Then in 1939, that contributed to the even stronger pact, the Pact of Steel.
Why was Hitler keen to remilitarize the Rhineland?
He wanted to remilitarize on a Saturday, when it was considered a rest day in France. Hitler felt that the French and the Russians treaty were encircling his country as well.
Why were his generals not keen on the idea?
If Hitler withdrawed, this could have ruined both the reputations of Hitler and his generals. Not a good idea from Hitler's point of view, but from the French and Russians, it was a very good idea, because they hated him that much.
What did Hitler decide to do?
March them into the Rhineland, and claimed that they should withdraw immediately if they saw their opposition.
What was the reaction of France and Britain? Why?
Stanley Baldwin was frightened that Germany would turn into Bolsheviks, communists. They were quite the opposite. France had just signed a friendship treaty with Russia and their army was much stronger than the German one.
I think it's time for another break, don't you? We'll be back right after this ad.